Never give up. Now, I literally just clicked over to my computer and I clicked on Facebook and I saw something, a vision from my past, and it just inspired me. It inspired me to come over here, hit record, and talk about it. Now, for the sake of everybody involved in this video, I'm not going to name any names. But man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you a story about a drummer. I've seen this happen a couple of times. A lot of times a band, when they're starting out, before they get their record deal or before, they blow up, they'll have a lineup of guys, and they basically cultivate some guys. They go, hey, well, we can get this guy and we can get this guy. And, you're getting guys that'll work for cheap. You're getting guys that are new. You're getting guys that are green. You're going out and you're going in a van and you're touring and you're playing little, crappy little hole in the wall places and crappy little low paying gigs. And you've got this band of, I guess, you could call them scrubs, I guess. I don't know, what a polite way. Rookies, a band of rookies, right? And sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes that band that you got in, and I didn't have that experience myself. I never got in, early with a group and rode in the van and played the crappy gigs and, had no shower for 2 days and eating truck stop food and all that kind of stuff. Man, that is a tough road to hoe. And then you think about it, man, starting out with an artist like that and going through all the ups and downs. Nashville is unique in that a lot of times those situations, you're still a sideman. You may be building something from the ground up, but essentially it's not your name on the marquee. You may be backing an artist or a duo or a trio. In this case, I'm talking about a duo. And this duo was, man, they were playing opening slots. They were, playing some big gigs, but opening slots. It started off at the very, very bottom. And like I said, they had backing musicians on stage that were going through this growing stage, with them. And they were, essentially hired guns because, like I said, their name is not on the marquee. And in a lot of cases, at that point in time, there's not a lot of money coming in. So I'm sure they were paid. They were potentially paid before the artist was ever really seeing any money coming in. Sometimes your money coming in goes to pay for the van, pay your sidemen, pay for the gas, pay for the 1 or 2 hotel rooms you might have to get here and there. And if you're the artist, sometimes you have to sacrifice. So, I don't know, anybody's specific economic situation, but man, those are tough gigs, and you really have to be young to jump on, a gig like that. But let's just say you get on the gig, and this person that I just saw on social media, they had gotten one of these gigs, and we're talking, dude, this is probably 15 years ago. 15 years ago. They had gotten this gig, and, they had started out with the artist and played all these shows and done all this grunt work, this tough gigs, opening slots and all that. And, their playing ability was what it was, but here's what can happen. This artist that you're playing for can take a super rise to the top, can be produced by a big time producer who all of a sudden gives them this new big sound way different than what the band was playing on the road. The reality is this, man. If you're an artist or if you're a sideman and you're joining one of these groups and they get a major label record deal, man, unless your band is just incredible, there's a good chance you're not going to play on the record at all. Not one note. It's usually, you playing on the record is usually not even a consideration. I wouldn't even be surprised if, the A&R rep or whoever from the record label didn't even bother to come out and listen to the band. I've played on albums with artists and the producer didn't come out and listen to the band. Literally didn't even come out and listen. I thought, man, how can you know what kind of music you're going to produce if you don't come out and listen to the band? But you know what? That's just how it is. So you get this gig, you pay the hard knocks, you pay the hard price, and you go out on the road, and then all of a sudden, the artist gets signed because they have a look, they're at the right age, they see something there, they see a star quality, and they are whisked off. The artists are whisked off to a big time producer who then gives them a modern, huge sound. And so, you're pulling for them because their success is going to be your success. You're going to be now out on the road playing these songs, which would go on to blow up. In this particular case, this artist would blow up and would be playing arenas, headlining. I mean, just like that, man. All it can take is, one or two big hit songs. And in the country world, you can become very fast the biggest thing out there. And all of a sudden, boom, you're playing arenas, you're headlining arenas. And now you've got this band of, shall we say, rookies or scrubs that are out on the road, and they're having to play catch up, learning this stuff that the producer did, trying to replicate the sound that the producer came up with. And it might be way different than the sound of the actual band that the artist has. Now, the demands of playing huge venues are big difference. There's a big difference. Like, when I was touring, one night it would be a club, the next night it would be an arena, the next night it would be all different things. And there's a different approach that you take to playing each. Clubs are different than playing an arena. An arena is a big experience, and your little small movements, your little small attack, your little small performance is going to look really small on the big stage. So you've got to amp up what you do. If you're a drummer, you may need to hit harder or produce a louder sound. I understand the mechanics of playing drums. It's not just, hitting like a lunatic. Sometimes just hitting the right way with the right drum, the right sound can produce a louder sound. And you're counting off the songs has to be a lot bigger in an arena because your band is spread out all over this big stage. So, this artist blows up overnight, all of a sudden becomes this huge thing, all of a sudden playing arenas. And, the band is trying to play catch up, trying to recreate this huge sound that's now being put out. And the reality is this, man, you could get out on that arena and the artist could start looking back at you and going, man, the opening act's drummer hits a lot harder than our guy, and it's producing a lot more volume and a lot bigger energy. And we're the headliner, and we would like to produce that kind of energy. We would like to put on that big of a show. And you could find yourself as a drummer. You could find yourself on the hot seat and getting the can. And this after you had been in the van and traveled and played hundreds of shows with this guy and paid your dues, and you could find yourself canned. And I've seen it happen a couple of times. I've seen it. And this is just a case. And I've even had people say, "Oh, well, you could get this guy right now, and he's good enough to do what you're doing now, and maybe down the road you make a change." So sometimes they will even know ahead of time that this might not be our long-term guy. But you know what? They're going to use you until they don't need you anymore. And that's a difficult thing to deal with. And imagine getting canned from a huge band that goes on to have multiple number one hits, that blows up the charts, is playing arena gig after arena gig, headlining all of these shows, and you get sent home. That could be a devastating thing. And, for a lot of people, that would be it. That would be the day they call it quits. They throw in the towel. I said, "I'm done. I've had it with this, man. I gave everything I could to this artist and they betrayed me. And man, this is awful. And man, I can't believe this happened and all of this." And you go, man, that is such a tough, tough thing to deal with. The rejection, coming home to the silence after hearing the screams, getting that close, maybe playing 10 or 15 arena gigs and realize that, man, they decided they wanted something else. They wanted something bigger. Man, that can be absolutely devastating. But imagine my surprise when I logged on this morning to social media just now, and I see that guy. And, I had noticed over the years that he was still playing. He was still playing downtown Broadway. He was still playing. He's been playing, if you can imagine, over 10, 13 years or whatever it's been, he's probably played thousands and thousands of gigs downtown. He never gave up. Yeah, I'm sure he was bummed out when he lost that gig, and I'm sure that was devastating. But you know what? It looks like he just got back on the horse, made a few calls, went back home, and went back to work. Man, that is a real musician. That is real dedication. You could call it crazy. It might even be crazy. But the reality is this, man. I log on this morning and boom, there he is. There he is getting a picture taken with a pretty well-known country artist. And he just landed a road gig. And you go, man, I'm glad to see it. I maybe one day I'll have a conversation with this guy. That would be a big, big interview on my channel. Because, man, dealing with the ups and downs of the music business and sticking with it when you are betrayed like that. I mean, it's a betrayal to some degree. Granted, the artist needs what it needs when it needs it. And that sometimes the artist can outgrow their band. And that is when transitions are made. That's when new people are brought in. They'll go through and they'll get somebody that's, toured before. They'll get somebody with a heavy hitting sound. They'll get somebody that's a, known pro that just happens to be available at the time. And that's exactly what happened back then. But now this guy stuck with it. He stuck with it all those years and played thousands of gigs. And boom, now he's back. Now he's going to be back on the road playing with a pretty big country artist. Not a young upstart, not a maybe somebody that's headlining arenas, but somebody that's definitely going to be headlining shows, working a good amount. And, he made it back. He made it back to the show. That's kind of like, It's kind of like being in like double A baseball and getting called up to the majors and pitching a few games in the majors and maybe having some success at first and then getting shipped back down to single A, getting shipped back down to single A and working your way through the farm system. And then you could say Lower Broadway in Nashville is like the farm system, working your way through the farm system, the crappy gigs, the low pay, the off seasons, all of the things that you have to deal with. And doing that for, 13 years. And then boom, all of a sudden getting called back up to the majors. Maybe you're kind of what you would say a relief pitcher rather than a hot shot now. But you know what? You've been called back up. You stuck by it. You survived. And now you're back at the show. It's absolutely incredible, man. And it's a testimony to sticking with it. If you really want something, if you really love playing music, then, man, you really don't have any other choice but to keep playing.